Lytudiep says hello everyone. How will a story of love and sacrifice play out today? After a challenging surgery, Tu Diep's health gradually stabilized, and she made a remarkable recovery. In this emotional moment, James proposed to her and she happily accepted. This story is not just about overcoming obstacles, but also a testament to the strong kindCEO between two hearts. Stay tuned and don't miss these beautiful moments. Can love really overcome all obstacles? Tu Diep went through a dangerous surgery, but thankfully she gradually recovered. Did James have the courage to express his feelings when she needed him most? When Tu Diep regained her strength, James decided to propose to her, and to his delight she agreed. In a moment of Tu Diep emotion, will their love continue to grow stronger after this trial? How did James' parents react when he shared the news? Would they support this love and bless their future together? His parents were overjoyed when they found out their son would have a beautiful, loving daughter-in-law. But what challenges will their life together bring? After marriage, will they overcome all obstacles and build a happy future? If you enjoyed this story and want to see more exciting videos, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching and supporting us. James sat silently beside the hospital bed, his gaze fixed on Tu Diep's pale face. The sterile, cold, white walls of the hospital room made every sound louder, with only the rhythmic beeping of the monitors, counting the seconds and minutes he spent, drowning in worry and helplessness. Tu Diep was asleep, her face much thinner after the surgery, her lips dry, and her skin faintly tinted with a sickly hue. The girl who had once been so vibrant and full of life all looked heartbreakingly fragile. James lowered his head, his hand trembling slightly, as he quietly pulled a small, velvet box from his jacket pocket. Inside, a platinum ring sparkled faintly under the dim hospital lights. He opened the box and stared at the ring, a symbol of the lifelong promise he had cherished for so long. He had chosen this ring when he realized Diep was the one he wanted to spend his life with. Thousands of times, he had imagined proposing to her under a sunset sky, or during a romantic candlelit dinner. But again and again he hesitated. Work, life's business, and an invisible fear had made him postpone, thinking just a little longer won't hurt. Sitting here, watching the woman he loved fighting for her life, James felt the weight of his foolishness. He should have proposed long ago. He should have let her know that, no matter what happened, he would be there to hold her hand through it all. A wave of regret crashed over him, choking him. James tightened his grip on the ring, his eyes burning. He blamed himself over and over. If only I had proposed earlier, maybe Tu Diep would have felt more secure. Maybe she wouldn't have faced all this feeling so alone. He bowed his head, placing the box gently on his knee, and silently prayed his eyes never left Tu Diep. Every shallow breath she took was like a knife twisting in his heart. James recalled their past days together, the times they strolled beneath rows of leafy trees, the afternoons spent laughing over coffee, the simple act of holding hands, moments that now felt unimaginably precious. He remembered the trusting way Tu Diep looked at him, the innocent things she said, the small dreams they once shared. All of that became his only source of strength. To stay by her side no matter the exhaustion. No matter the heavy fears weighing on his shoulders. James knew deep down that he could not afford to lose Tu Diep. He silently vowed that if she pulled through this, he would never let time slip away in hesitation or die. He would propose to her, give her the home she deserved. A place where fear and sorrow could never reach her. James gently brushed Tu Diep's hair back, his movements so tender as if afraid he might hurt her. He whispered, even though he knew she might not hear Tu Diep, "Please be strong. There's still so much we haven't done together. We haven't had our wedding, built our little home, or had beautiful children who share your smile." His voice broke, each word falling out in a breath, laced with Tu Diep emotion. The ring remained quietly in James' hand, an unspoken vow. The hospital room stood silent, but within James' heart, a new determination was being born. He would never again allow hesitation to steal precious moments from them. He would dedicate every remaining day of his life to loving and protecting the woman he had almost lost, not to fate but to his own delays. Time seemed to slow down during the days James spent by Tu Diep. He witnessed every small change in her, the slight return of color to her cheeks, the growing brightness in her eyes, and the faint smiles that began to bloom on her lips. Every step toward recovery, no matter how small, made James' heart swell with quiet joy. The once cold hospital room now felt warmer than ever. The early morning sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting a soft golden glow across the white walls, and bathing Tu Diep's delicate face. She sat propped against her pillow, reading messages of encouragement from friends. Though her body remained frail, her spirit had grown stronger with each passing day. James stood at the doorway silently watching her, a storm of emotions swirling inside him. Love, gratitude, hope, and above all, a vow rising quietly in his heart. He would never let her walk alone again. He walked toward her, tightening his grip on the small velvet box hidden in his pocket, the symbol of a promise he had held on to for far too long. Tu Diep, he called softly, his voice as gentle as a breeze. Tu Diep lifted her gaze to meet his, her clear brown eyes sparkling with tenderness and a hint of surprise. "What is it, James?" she asked, her voice still carrying the traces of exhaustion, but sweet and strong enough to melt him inside. James pulled a chair closer to her bed, taking her slender hand into his own. Holding it firmly, he stared into her eyes, those eyes that had always reflected his entire world, and knew he could no longer wait. He took out the velvet box and opened it. Inside lay a simple yet elegant ring, shimmering under the morning light, just like the pure, steadfast love he had for her. "Tu Diep," James spoke gently, afraid to break the fragile beauty of the moment. "I almost lost you, and I can't bear to live another day without being able to call you my wife." Tu Diep's eyes widened in astonishment, her heart pounding against her ribs. She had dreamed of this moment so many times, but reality right here, right now, felt even more beautiful than anything she had ever imagined. James knelt down beside her bed, holding the ring with trembling hands, his eyes shining with devotion. I love you to deep. From the moment I met you, I knew you were the one I wanted to walk through life with. Will you marry me? Share the rainy days, the sunny days, and all the beautiful tomorrows with me. Tu Diep covered her mouth with her hand, tears spilling down her cheeks. She was overwhelmed, unable to find words, as her heart overflowed with love and happiness. After a moment she reached out, her fragile but determined hand trembling as she placed it into James' waiting grasp. James. I will, she whispered, her voice trembling through her tears. James laughed through his own tears, a radiant smile lighting up his face, a smile Tu Diep had never seen before, one that spoke of pure, overwhelming joy. He gently slid the ring onto her finger, fitting perfectly, as if it had been destined for her all along. The golden sunlight gleamed on their entwined hands, as if heaven itself was silently blessing their union. Tu Diep gazed at the ring, then back at James, her tear-streaked face beaming with a radiant smile. We've made it through the hardest days, haven't we? She whispered. James nodded, tightening his hold on her hand. Yes. And from now on I want to spend every beautiful day ahead with you by my side. They leaned into each other, embracing tenderly, needing no more words. In that embrace, two hearts beat as one, promising a future filled with endless love and hope. In that moment there was no hospital, oh fear, no pie, only pure unwavering love soaking into every breath, every heartbeat forevermore. After carefully slipping the ring onto Tu Diep's slender finger, James felt a surge of overwhelming emotions flooding his heart. His trembling hands tightened around hers, as tears welled up in his eyes, blurring his vision. Tu Diep smiled weakly but warmly, her gaze filled with tenderness and trust. She gave a gentle nod, a silent, yet sacred acceptance that made James' entire world light up with unspeakable joy. In that quiet hospital room, everything else faded away. All that mattered was this profound, precious moment of love and promise between them. Once Tu Diep had fallen into a peaceful, healing sleep, James couldn't contain his excitement. He quickly grabbed his phone, his hand still slightly shaking, and dialed his parents' number. His heart pounded fiercely in his chest. Not out of fear anymore, but out of sheer happiness he was desperate to share. The call connected almost immediately. His mother's voice, tight with worry, came through. Hello, James. Any news about Tu Diep? James took a deep breath, his lips curving into a smile so wide it hurt, and said, his voice trembling slightly, Mom, Tu Diep is stable now. She's out of danger. On the other end, he could hear his mother gasping in relief. And then his father's steady, gruff voice asked, Are you sure so? What did the doctors say? James nodded fervently, though they couldn't see him. Yes, Dad. The doctor said she's responded well to the treatment. She's getting better little by little. A few seconds passed in silence, Then James continued, unable to hold it back any longer. And there's more. I proposed to her. I asked Tu Diep to marry me. The line went silent again, this time longer, as if his parents needed a moment to absorb what they just heard. Then a burst of joyful sobs filled James' ear, his mother's voice breaking into tears. "Oh, James. That's wonderful. That's the best news we could ever ask for." His father, usually reserved and composed, chuckled softly, a rare sound that made James' throat tighten with emotion. "You've made the right choice, so welcome her officially into our family." James wiped at his damp eyes, smiling so wide it felt like he could touch the stars. He told them everything: how Tu Diep had smiled, how her fingers had reached weakly for the ring, how she had nodded through tears and exhaustion. Every small detail was a treasure James wanted to preserve forever. Listening intently, his mother whispered, "She must love you so much to fight through everything, just to stay with you." His father added with solemn warmth, "Marriage isn't just about good days, James. It's about holding each other up through the worst. And you too. You've already proven you can do that." James clutched the phone tighter, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. In the depths of his soul, he silently made a vow. He would love Tu Diep with every beat of his heart, through every storm, every sunrise, for as long as he lived. As the call ended with more congratulations, blessings, and promises of a family celebration, once Tu Diep recovered, James lowered the phone and looked back at her. She lay there peacefully, breathing softly, her face serene despite the battle she had just fought. James sat down beside her, gently taking her fragile hand into his own, and whispered into the quiet air, "Tu Diep, I told them Mom and Dad already love you. They can't wait to meet you properly. Our future is waiting for us, my love. Let's walk towards it together, hand in hand, heart with heart." Tu Diep shifted slightly in her sleep, a gentle smile tugging at the corners of her lips. James leaned down, pressing a soft kiss on her forehead, and closed his eyes, silently thanking the heavens. Tonight, in a quiet hospital room, filled with the faint hum of machines and the steady heartbeat of love, a new chapter of their lives had quietly, beautifully begun. Do you think that is wonderful? The story of James and Tu Diep is truly a moving and meaningful journey. Their love is not only a connection between two hearts, but also a testament to sacrifice and perseverance in overcoming challenges. After days of worry and suffering due to illness, Tu Diep not only recovered, but also received a heartfelt proposal from James, a moment that will never be forgotten in their lives. What's special is that James nurtured their love, not just through words but also through actions, as he was always by her side, caring for her and worrying about her every moment. When he shared the good news with his parents, they were not only happy that Tu Diep would become their daughter-in-law, but also felt the trust in the bright future that the two would build together. This story sends a powerful message about love and sharing that no matter how difficult life may be, if there is true love, we can always overcome it. I hope this story inspires many people on their own journey to find and protect their love. Thank you for following the story.